Jimin Park. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Before we started rolling, I was saying how I discovered you. I
Hmm.
was on YouTube, and the algorithm is pretty clever, and so it started suggesting you to me, and so then I just checked out a bunch of your stuff, and I was like, man, she can really play, and
Thank
and
you.
uh, Uh, and one of the things I was most impressed by your playing, I mean, you're playing language. I mean, you're playing vocabulary. It's obvious you've uh, done a lot of transcribing, a lot of listening,
Mhm.
um, and your feel is amazing. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it's killing. I mean, that right hand, the feel in your right hand in particular. That's a hard it's a hard thing to acquire.
Right.
Mm,
I agree.
yeah.
I worked hard on that actually. So my feel was like, I didn't really like it.
Mhm,
Well, still, I'm still working on my feel, I guess. That's the weakest thing in my playing, I think.
mhm.
But it's a great compliment because you think my feel was great to you. So it's great.
So let me ask you who is most influential? What keyboard players are most influential in your field?
Barry Harris. She's
Mm,
my most influence. And also, I loved Red Garland a lot
mm,
and Sonny Clark. There are so many pianists that
right.
I have to mention. Bud Powell, of course.
Mm,
And I get into this area of stride piano, and I loved Fats Waller,
mm,
James P. Johnson,
yeah.
and they got the feel that just ringing me. So I had to study.
Uh, 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 it seems like I hear some like some Wynton Kelly or some Oscar Peterson or
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I
yeah,
forgot to mention them.
yeah, because you're in particular with your right hand, because your right hand is you have a strong. I mean, you can't play with the kind of feel that you're playing with unless you have a strong right hand, because it requires a lot of it's physical to get that sort of feel, and all the sort of nuance and stuff.
Yeah.
And someone like Oscar Peterson or my favorite piano player, Kenny Kirkland.
Oh, of
You
course.
know, his right hand was totally like he had like a bionic right hand or something. His
Mhm.
arm is not
Yeah,
not human.
it's really hard for me to actually um imitate their feel because I have a small hands.
Mm,
Obviously, they have more bigger hand. They have um big hand fingers. So even though they just touch the piano like this, they will get a better sound. But
mm,
I just have the small hand. I can't even reach the 10th voicing. So if if I still want to do that feel, I have to practice a lot, and I I don't know. I'm still finding the way to actually make that feel, but it's hard
mm.
for me to do because I have a small hand. But I am still trying to get the feel.
So what kind of you said you have to practice a lot. What kind of stuff do you practice? Do you work on to try to enhance your feel?
Well, mostly transcribing.
Okay.
Um, it's a little bit of cliche, but I just listen to the album a lot and just playing over that album. And I listen again and again and till I memorized all the solos, and then I just improvise over the solo and stuff.
Okay. Now, uh, so tell us about your upbringing and when playing piano became, an important part of your life, and then like when you knew that this is what you wanted to do.
Hmm. Well, it's a kind of shame, but my mother wanted me to play piano. So I didn't choose to play piano when I was younger, but it was so lucky because I started to like piano since um, I started with the classical piano when I was like
Yeah.
5 years old, and then I I started to play jazz around 12 years old, and and um, I I'll be honest with you, I didn't really like jazz at
Hmm.
first time because it was too hard for me to understand.
Right.
And I remember I was listening to probably Bob Powell because my teacher wanted me to transcribe the solo. And I was like falling asleep during his solo. And then I was like waking up, oh, I have to transcribe the solo. But, you know, the first time I really feel that I really love this music was, I think it was Oscar Peterson. My memory is not
Mm.
that clear, but I was listening to his album We Get Request, and I think it was The Days of Wine and Roses, and he started with this melody, and I was
Mm.
like, "Oh my god, this is actually kind of good. I can listen to this song." So I was keep listening to the song, and I don't know, maybe that was so natural, and I was I listened to the song and okay, I think I like this music. I may keep doing this music.
Mm.
Was that simple? I think it takes time. And also as an Asian, I didn't have much chance to listen to jazz music. So at first it was hard for me to understand the music because for I guess for most of the American they grew up listening to jazz music naturally, but I didn't even know what the music was. The the only jazz song I remember was Autumn Leaves at that time. So
Mm.
yeah, so it takes time to really like that music. But now I can't live without jazz.
It's amazing how that it's amazing how that happens. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm not surprised that you started with classical piano. Is that something uh, that you still do? Are you still like practicing classical repertoire and stuff?
Um, I don't have a routine to practice classical music anymore, but I feel like I still have influences with the classical music because I started younger when I thought I really hated classical music when I like I didn't really like classical music at like 10 years old because um because it was so competitive at the time because I was like there's some kind of culture in Korea that well, you have to be the first, you have to be better than someone even though it's music. So I
Mhm.
was like, oh, if music is this competitive, I don't want to be in this scene. So but right now, beside of all the competition and stuff, I just love classical music itself. And it's funny because when I'm composing the song, I can say that it's not 100% jazz music. It's mostly influenced by classical music.
Mhm. Yeah. So the I frequently say that if you can play classical music well. Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so
below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
Well, and if you can play jazz well, that sort of puts you in a sort of situation where there's not really anything that you can't play, right? Because those traditions are so they're deep traditions, and there's a lot of really challenging repertoire, to get to, and so it's like you're working out all these, technical issues, and another thing is, I've encountered some great players that don't, never played, classical, and I was sometimes I can be surprised by that, but because of the way that they play, there's a certain kind of technical precision in their playing that usually lets me know that there was at least at one period of time that was some serious classical, a repertoire that was worked out. But actually, you can accomplish that by just practicing the universal, the universal components of music, which is rudiments, right? So scales, arpeggios, scales and thirds, opposing scales, all kinds of different scales, full range scales. There's all kinds of stuff that.
Orange?
Yeah.
I don't even know that.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff to practice that doesn't necessarily belong to classical or to jazz, but it's just the stuff that if you can't play this stuff, then there's no music that you can play. You can't play anything, right? So you have to get that stuff together. And when I started young, and my dad was my teacher all the way until I went to college. And so we did stuff by ear. We did stuff that was, etudes and stuff out of books, exercise books, and we did classical and we did jazz. And so that's always been sort of the thing for me. It's always been, as a saxophone player, we talk about being able to play both sides of the horn, so to speak. And now, there are no gigs for a classical saxophonist.
Oh, yeah. also in America, also in probably everywhere.
Yeah, there's not many gigs for a classical saxophonist.
There are some wedding gigs, isn't it?
Oh yeah, right. I'm sure you can find something every once in a while, but the point is that you're going to be hungry for for most of the time.
Right.
Homeless for most of the time, and then every once in a while,
for the love, not for the money.
That's right. And and in my career, because of that, the jazz and commercial stuff, that stuff really took off. And so that's what most of my career has been. But I never sort of lost that love of classical music, and I see the value in my composition. The stuff that I enjoy composing and arranging the most is sort of hybrid works, music that has classical and jazz components.
Wow.
And that's the stuff that.
I'll listen to it. Where can I listen to that?
Oh, well, and there's actually a pretty good collection of stuff. Now, I have a recording out called Sacramental. And that was 6 compositions that I wrote for chamber orchestra and jazz quartet.
That is amazing. Oh my God. Orchestra. How did you arrange that, actually?
So what I tried to do is I tried to capitalize on the usual strengths of classical musicians, the usual strengths of jazz musicians, and I wrote the music in such a way that everybody was doing something that they were natively going to be good at.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges when you try to do like jazz with strings, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
is string players don't usually swing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to write lines and things,
It is
it's
hard
like,
to swing on the strings instrument, I guess.
I mean, now there are some string players like Christian Howes, for instance. He's, I don't know, he might be the greatest jazz violinist alive or something. He swings, he can swing, and there's a few that they can do that, but most string players don't have like significant jazz or commercial experience. It's
Mm-hmm.
all classical training.
Right.
And so stuff like developing your swing feel, that's not something that they're ever going to probably do.
Right.
And so it would have been maybe silly for me to write a bunch of stuff for the string players to be swinging if I wanted it to sound authentic, if I wanted it to still sound like jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but classical players tend to be very technically sound.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like great intonation, great facility over there, over the range of the instrument. So I could write all of this really challenging, acrobatic kind of stuff, and they can nail that stuff all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the jazz players, players that were also very technically proficient because of the nature of the material, but
Mm-hmm.
also great improvisers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so then you could have all this sort of interesting interaction between the two.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God! Now I really want to hear your album. Then is it on Spotify?
Oh, say it again.
Is it on Spotify?
I don't know if it's on Spotify. It was on what is it, iTunes and like Napster and stuff like that. It was on those platforms for a period of time. I kind of let that stuff. I let it expire,
Oh,
but I'll send you something. I'll send you
yeah,
something.
please.
So we'll work that out.
Mm-hmm.
But Charlie Parker with strings,
Oh my
for
gosh.
instance, right? So Charlie Parker with strings is like, that's one of those things where you're bringing traditionally classical instruments
Mm-hmm.
together with jazz instrumentalists, right? And so you have great improvisers with, sort of great technicians, and the writing of all that material sort of is pretty sensitive towards what the strengths are. And that's why that stuff sounds so great.
Right.
And Charlie Parker kind of got that whole thing started. Yeah, there were some projects prior to Charlie Parker with strings, but the Charlie Parker with strings collection, that's what made everybody after that
that
want
was
to do
very
it.
successful. I remember I read in somewhere that album got really big and successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Parker with strings.
Yeah, we did something at Ohio State a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. A pandemic has totally screwed up my sense of time, like my perception of how much time has gone by.
Same
But
here.
I guess it was 3 years ago, and we did 12 of those original arrangements, the actual arrangements from the recordings.
Mm-hmm.
And that was killing. I was pinching myself the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so talk to us about some of the projects that you're working on right now, and what have you been doing, over the course of the pandemic, and maybe some skills that you've had to maybe acquire to stay busy.
Well, luckily I was staying busy all the time because there was a funny situation for me because I was stuck in the cruise ship for like about 2 months because I was working. I was doing the cruise ship, and then when the pandemic has started, we got one patient in our ship, so we have to quarantine in the room all together. Not all together, in a separate room. So, and I experienced that, crazy feeling of quarantine in the room alone for like 1 month and a half. And I was thinking like, oh my God, when I get out of this room, I'm gonna just stay busy and then just experiencing life. I'm not gonna spend time here like this. And I get out, and I was so lucky because one of the biggest company in Korea. Right now, I'm in Korea. They contacted me and then asking me to write a book with them. So I started to write a book for about 5 months, and then it's releasing in 1 week, actually. So
yeah. What's the book? Tell us about the book.
I just one day jazz piano lesson, and then I made it 30 days. So it's for like complete beginner, and then I teach with the major, how to make major chord. And then I'm thinking maybe I can make more books and then make the curriculums for the pros and intermediate. So I started with the beginner level so I can make the curriculums. It's really fun to do that, but it's different than, actually playing the music.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. I have a book out on Hal Leonard called How to Improvise Over Chord Changes.
Oh,
and that book, I mean, it took us 6 years to, so the material that's in the book is material that I developed to teach students at Ohio State. Also in the improvisation sequence, right? So it's all this material that I designed for that curriculum, and it was like, okay, so let's do a book. And so yeah, so I totally understand what's involved in trying to pull a book together. It
was
is
harder than I
a
thought.
lot of labor.
I thought I knew everything because, major chord, no problem. I've learned it. I've learned that when I was like 13. I know it, but when I tried to explain it in a right way, it was really hard to do it. So it was a challenge.
Yeah, very very much so. It's but what happens is, from having to do something like that, it makes you like really know what it is that you're talking about. Like, I mean, like, you're being
That is
very
so
clear.
true. So I feel so, I feel really thankful that I have opportunity to write a book like that. Even though it's for the beginner, I learned a lot while I was writing the book. And actually after that, writing a book season is gone. And now I really want to do, it's actually, so it's orchestra music. I started to listen to more classical music, as I mentioned. Rachmaninoff or Ravel piano concerto. I was listening to the music, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this kind of music. So I'm learning how to arrange the orchestra and by myself.
Yeah.
And it is really difficult, but I'm trying.
So what is your process? Like, what are you doing to learn?
I think when I'm starting the new project, like making beat, because I'm doing it from the scratch, and sometimes I don't really like to have a teacher. I just like to just learn by myself with the YouTube, or there's so many materials that I can learn with the online system. So
Right.
well, if I have a teacher, I can get to the straight to the point, but I just like the process that I'm learning myself, and then I feel really proud of myself. So, but as
So
I'm
are you
doing,
like so are you like transcribing stuff, listening to stuff, sort of
Mhm,
deconstructing things?
yes, and there is actually some of the YouTubers that I don't remember the channels, but there are some YouTubers, they analyze the orchestra music, why there is violins, but what like this, and why there's violas than violins.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, oh, why viola? Like it can be violins. Why they choose viola? So I
Right.
can learn many things just seeing YouTube videos. So it's like,
Now, are you more of an oral kind of writer, or are you more um, okay, so let me rephrase that.
mhm.
I'll tell you that I'm very much an oral writer. So, for
Oh,
instance, software programs like Finale or Sibelius or something that will play back is very it's very helpful. It's very useful, right? Because I mean, I know what this stuff is going to sound like, but I'm very much influenced by what goes in my ears, you
oh,
know. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
So when you're writing, are you sort of frequently listening back to what you're coming up with, or are you sort of you kind of get through most of it and then you go back and listen to the whole thing?
How do I compose? I think, um, yeah, I'll say I'm more listening to the melody while I'm composing.
Okay.
So yeah, don't even remember. When I'm composing, I'm just like sitting on the piano, and
Mm,
I'm not sure if I hear the melody first or I play and hear the melody.
yeah.
Sometimes I'm just like in the meditative zone, and then I just move my finger and then catch the melody while I'm in that zone. But sometimes like I play the melody that I have never listened in my life.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting for me. So it's like when I was younger, a lot younger, um, I would almost always hear the melody first,
Wow.
and then I would go and figure out what kind of harmony needs to go with the melody, right?
Oh, that's so cool.
But the older I've gotten and the more composing I've done, the less I hear the melody first. Usually, what I hear first now is some sort of um, chord progression. You
Mhm,
know, like I'll hear a harmonic structure, or I'll have a sense of what I want something to come across like how
mhm,
I want it to. I don't know. Maybe some of the instruments that would be involved.
mhm,
Maybe maybe I'll hear a bass line first. Maybe
mhm,
I'll hear, you know, and then what starts to happen is I hear the chord progression playing. Then the melody will start to emerge. I'll start to hear the melody, you
oh
know,
wow.
and and I and I and that's kind of natural for me now, and it makes sense because I'm an improviser, right?
Mhm,
So that's a pretty normal thing, right? So I hear chord progressions. I mean, they're not it's not a standard, but I'm hearing chord progression, and in the chord progression, I'm starting to sort of improvise, and then
mhm,
I start to say, oh, wait a minute, but I really like this thing right here. Oh yeah, and I like this other thing there, you know. So that's a pretty frequent thing. And then there's different kind of composing. Like I wrote this it was a black gospel setting
Mm-hmm.
of an Orthodox Vespers, of a Christian Orthodox Vespers.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't cover all of the text, but the text was very, it sort of makes you have to do certain things with the melody so that the words are not, so you want the words to be ergonomic, and you want the words to make sense with the shape of the melody,
Oh, wow.
right? And so there's some of that kind of stuff going on. So
Mm-hmm.
because the words were already there, I had to set the text,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. And so that kind of thing. For me, if people give me a lot of specifics about what they want an arrangement to be,
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. I can do that quickly. But if I'm just composing something because I want to compose it, it takes me a long time because
Oh, same here.
there's no
Actually.
deadline.
Right. And also, my expectation of my composition is so high, so I'm just keep going, and maybe I can make a better melody, better harmony, and it became like too much.
Yeah. So are you a tweaker then? So the more you hear something, are you constantly wanting to make changes to it, or are you more like, Mozart, for instance, he was not a tweaker. So basically, he would write something, and it was like everything was just the way that he imagined it the first time, right?
I think composing should be like that. I think I heard that somewhere, that most of the classical composer was actually a great improviser. So that means probably they changed something after they improvised, but mostly probably I'll say their composing skill and improvising skill was like similar. So while they're improvising, they were just like composing at the same time. So I think that is the goal I'm reaching right now.
Yep.
I'm going to probably yeah, sometimes, but if I think about my experience with the composing, the one of my favorite tune came with the natural vibe. I don't really think much. I was just in the vibe, and then I just write the melody, and I just write the left hand, and I was like, boom, there's a new song, and I really like it. I really like it till now. So it's really mysterious for me. If I put a lot of effort and then I feel uncomfortable, it didn't happen like that. But if I feel like I have to write a song right now, and then I sit on the piano, I just finish the song in 30 minutes, and then I like that. But I don't know how to make the vibe. It's not like effort.
I did a workshop a few years ago, and it was called Songwriting Without Inspiration. And,
wow. Interesting.
And so basically what it was is I developed a bunch of different ways to make yourself think of a melody, or to make yourself think of something. Like you can use, I mean, and part of it is just like, okay, it's just to get something down on the page. And then once you get something down on the page, or once you get something started, then you can start making adjustments to it. And then, okay, now I got that piece done. Okay, now let me go to this other thing. Because I think one thing that, especially like with prolific songwriters, one thing that it's easy, well, it's not easy, that's not what I mean to say, is one thing that's common is I think people think that composing is some sort of magic process every time. Like it's, ethereal and, it's kind of like, let me see which way the wind is blowing. Okay. Oh, it's over here, and really what these really prolific songwriters, they've written a lot of music. They have a certain pattern. They understand stuff like how an environment can affect them. That you have a lot of these songwriters that write in a team. So that'll be like they'll think of something and then they'll like send it to somebody, and then they'll listen to it too. Say, oh yeah, and I heard this other thing, and then they'll send it back to them, and just trying to break up things. When I was a kid, frequently I would wake up in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., and I would have a melody in my head, and then I would go downstairs and write the melody down. And now that might seem like a good thing, but the problem with that though is, when I stopped having that experience, when I stopped hearing things in my dreams or just melodies just coming to me, then it's easy to start thinking that like something's wrong. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I can't think of anything now. I must have writer's block. I must not. I'm not supposed to write anymore because the melodies are not coming to me by themselves anymore.
Gosh, that's so interesting. So you were getting the melody, and then sometimes it stopped. You were stopped getting the melody.
So I don't know. I probably a dozen songs or something came to me like that. When I was a kid, and then I got to a certain point, and that stopped happening. I just didn't hear them that way anymore.
Wow.
So when it stopped happening, especially, I was a kid, so especially I'm thinking, well, what's wrong now? Why can't I hear them that way anymore? And it's like, well, wait a minute, I guess I have to try to find another way to hear them. So, but the whole creative process thing it's such like everybody's different. Everybody has a different process. There's like 1,000 different views on, what the process is supposed to be like. You have some folks that, they're really like disciplined, and it's like, okay, I'm going to write some every day, and they go and they write something at the same time each day, and then you have other folks that they have to, or they're trying to wait for a certain, you described it as a vibe or like a certain like feeling that makes it much easier for the sort of ideas to sort of flow.
Right.
And yeah, so it's kind of an interesting topic.
It is really interesting.
Yeah. So how has this, for a musician in particular, how has the pandemic sort of affected things in Korea?
So it changed many people's life, I guess, for everywhere, also in Korea. But luckily, like, we didn't get really bad, like, people just keep the distance and stuff, but still we didn't we couldn't play many gigs, or
right.
It's same as everywhere, I guess. But actually here, for me, sometimes I think maybe for me it's right time for me to have this kind of moment, because since I have very much time alone in my house, so I can actually deeply think about what I actually want to do with my music and with my career and stuff, and it really helped me. So it was necessary for me, because I was always working with the friends, working with people playing with people. But right now I'm more settling down. Like I know what I want with my music career.
Yeah.
So I decided to learn orchestra music. So I'm grateful for this moment in a way.
Right.
But COVID has to be gone.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It,
it's been devastating. Really devastating. Now I know that one thing that seems to be more common in Asian culture is the whole sort of wearing masks, right?
mm-hmm.
So that was something I think in America, since that's not a dominant part, has never been a dominant part of
Right,
our
right.
culture, like people wearing masks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems that maybe in countries where that sort of thing has already been sort of normalized,
Mm-hmm. Right.
that if the masks have actually been effective towards
Mm-hmm.
reducing the spread of COVID, then it
Mm-hmm.
seems like maybe Korea would be in better shape in general than
Mm-hmm.
America.
Yeah, actually, we were wearing masks even before COVID because we got this dust problem, air pollution. So we
Mm,
had to wear the mask even before, like, I guess it started like, I don't remember, like 7 or 8 years ago, and people starting to wear masks. But I mean, like, it was not like every people wear the mask. Like, some people wear mask because their lung is not good. So
mm,
no one really have like um no one was really negative about the mask. But
right.
also I was living in the States for years, so I
Mm,
know that culture that even if people wear masks, like they give the look like, oh, are you wearing the mask, are you okay, they kind of, you know.
yeah. Um, so tell us about your schooling. So you said you were in the States.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I just graduated Berkeley College of Music in
Yep.
Boston. So I was, well, it took long time for me to graduate the college because I was working between the semesters, and I was not really a good student, so I just kept getting fails.
Mhm.
So it took about 6, 7 years to graduate.
Right.
And I'm not like a school person, I would say. I like to learn by myself, and um yeah, so I'm not planning any more schools in my life.
That's what I said too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Um, so yeah. So the being a student, it's interesting. Um, I teach at Ohio State, and I've been at Ohio State since 2004.
Uh-huh.
And I frequently talk to my students about, being good students and, doing all the things and um, following the rules and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And but the truth is that although I'm a good enough student to get grades, whatever necessary grades,
Mm-hmm.
I never really considered myself to be a great student. You know, and part of the reason is because my sister, she's a psychiatrist, and she's a great student. so so
Oh,
so I have this sort of um, idea of what a really really good student is, and I've never saw myself as being a great student.
what was
And
her major again? What was her major?
my major,
No, no, her major.
her major, she's a psychiatrist.
Like,
So she went to medical school, and she's a doctor,
Oh, okay.
medical
Oh,
doctor, right?
wow.
And you got to be a good student. If you're going to do that, then you got to be a good student. And she, she's getting A's on everything like that. Um, for me, I did music and all that. Um, my undergraduate degree, my junior year, third year of my undergrad. Okay, so let's back the whole thing up. First of all, I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't going to go to college. And
Why
I
did you
was
think that?
say it again.
Why did you think that?
Well, I just I had I was my first record came out when I was 14, and so I was so by the time I had finished high school, I had like 4 CDs out or something.
Oh my gosh. So you were like a child prodigy, like
Oh,
that kind of.
well, I just I was playing with great players all the time, and writing music and recording, and I was like, okay, let me just take this year, because I thought I was gonna get picked up by some touring group or something, and do that, and that really didn't happen. I mean, I was gigging a lot, and I practiced a whole lot. I was practicing like 8 hours a day, especially that
Wow.
year that I took out.
How do you even practice 8 hours a day with the
Well, see,
instrument?
look, the thing is that the way I mean, not going to school wasn't really an option in my family. It wasn't really an option, but if I wasn't going to go to school, if I wasn't going to go to college, I was definitely going to do something productive. So, so that was part of it, and it gave me an opportunity to, to do more writing and do some more gigging and a bunch of things. But then the second year out of high school, I was like, okay, maybe I should like consider doing something. And my dad made a deal with me. He said, okay, why don't you go to this community college? So I was like, okay, I'll go to this community college. He says, I will reimburse 100% of an A, 80% of a B, and nothing lower than that. So, of course, I got all A's because I was not trying to pay anything.
Wow.
So I took a bunch of general education courses for one year. No music classes, just all general education, still practicing a lot and stuff. And then I transferred into Western Michigan University, where I did, 4 years there. Now, my third year at Western, I was about ready to drop out. I was like, you know what? I this is just not, I can't do this. And it was hard too, because I was being offered gigs to go on the road with several artists that came through that were guest artists at that school. And so I was like, man, I need to just take one of these opportunities and just be done with school. So that's the way I was thinking. And so I was like, okay, all right, let me stay in school. Let me finish my undergraduate degree. Once I get done with my undergraduate degree, I'm never going back. I'm done. Just finish out. So I finished, and they offered me a full assistantship to stay to do a master's degree.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I did a master's degree. So I went straight through and finished my master's degree. So I got tricked into
Yeah, you were
into doing another degree. So I was like, okay, I'll do this. So I finished that, and then I certainly didn't think I was ever going to go back to school. I was like,
oh my gosh, and you did one more?
Yeah. The Dr. Thunder, the doctor is actually a real doctor.
Oh, really? You're a real doctor degree.
Yeah. And so and I finished that degree about 3 years ago. Or was it 2 years ago? Everything's all blurred. I don't know.
How long it takes to get a doctor's degree? I heard it's like more than no 10 years.
Oh, no. It doesn't take that long. It depends on what the degree program is. Most of the degree programs are 3 years.
Oh my
And
God. So you're doing undergrad for 4 years and master for 2 years?
2 years for the master's.
And then another 3 years for doctor's degree. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Now the thing is that the doctorate for me, it took longer than 3 years. I had a full assistantship, but I was also full time at Ohio State teaching, and I was working at a church 25 hours a week. And
how do you do that?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't, and the school is 2 hours away from where I live, and I was driving 12 hours a week just to go back and forth
You
to
didn't
school.
sleep at all?
I think that's what happened. Is I think I traded sleep for studying. But I really don't know. I really don't know how that worked. I'm just saying this to say, you say that now that you never want to go back to school. That's what I said.
I can't go back to school, you know. Oh my God, I'm not a school person. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. If I think about school, it's
well, it's like I'm saying, me neither. On the teaching side, it's different. But as far as being a student, I mean, that's, like I said, that's never been, I mean, I'm more of a doer and less of a, like, I learn things best when I'm doing them.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know?
I know
Like
what you mean. Right.
Yeah. Not like the kind of theoretical, let's sit over here and talk about something over there, but actually being engaged in whatever it is. That's when I learn the best.
Right. Same here. I learn the most when I'm teaching or when I'm writing a music or, you know.
Yep.
I think it's for the most of the people, you know, like, I don't know if, you know, it's hard to learn something from one person's because everyone has a different perspective.
Yes.
So it's hard to, it has to be dedicated if you want to learn something from one person because you have to get the perspective from that person. So it's a real, I don't know.
Yeah, some stuff can get lost in translation. So you have a lot of subscribers on your YouTube channel. So, now have you been particularly strategic about acquiring those subscriptions, or has it been something that's happened more organically over time? And how long have you had a YouTube channel?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. What is strategy?
Yeah. So I'm saying, so there's all of these. There's several approaches to gaining more subscribers on YouTube and in social media in general. Right. Is that something that you? So were you like strategic about it? Were you working a particular plan to acquire those subscribers?
Was it natural to get the subscriber, or
or was it something that just was more organic, just something that just happened because you I mean, how long have you had your YouTube channel?
For about 2 years, I guess. So
okay, so you would have had to be pretty deliberate. I mean, how consistently do you post?
I try to post every 1 week, but sometimes it could be 1 month because I was doing something other than YouTube channel. But right now I'm trying to be more dedicated to my YouTube channel because it's like most of my income, and also I really like to help other people to learn how to play piano.
Right.
But at first, when I was growing my channel, I was really think about like how to get more people to teach my material. So
Hmm.
what should I post if if I want to reach this kind of group of people? So I
Right.
was always thinking about that, and sometimes when I make a plan for the video, sometimes it works, and sometimes I put video without thinking, like, oh, I'm just gonna put this thing out because I just have this in my hand. So I posted, and then that got like lots of views. So I I didn't really get the algorithm system. So, but the main thing I was concerned was what kind of um, material people need
Hmm.
to learn jazz piano, because I was going to post content about jazz piano,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about teaching jazz piano, not only playing. So I was thinking, oh, what do people need when they started to play jazz piano?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to think about my own past, that how I learned jazz piano, so I can create what I was needing at that time, what I needed at that time. So I was keep posting what I need at 3 years ago and 5 years ago. Yeah.
Now, have you found that a certain kind of content, because when you analyze the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
it'll show you where you're getting views from, like what part of the world.
Right. It's
Have you have
everywhere.
yeah, have you noticed that certain kind of content is really popular in certain areas
Um.
and maybe
Yeah.
not as popular in other areas?
The percentage is not really changing much, because I'm getting like 20% of Americans,
Right.
um, 20% of Korean, like 5% Japanese, and
Mm-hmm.
3% French. But sometimes, if I post, um, it depends. Sometimes one of my videos was really viral on Japan.
Mm.
I still don't know why, but I'm thinking maybe it was because I was making 20 licks video, and it was kind of Japanese people really liked it. So somehow they liked my content, or somehow it just worked because how the algorithm worked. I don't know how it works, but yeah, sometimes it's different. I still don't get how it works.
Um, so, I was watching one of the replays of a live stream you did with your band
Mm-hmm,
and your trio.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I was looking at the chat, and the chat was pretty uh, active, very active. A lot of people were writing stuff, right?
Right.
And most of the stuff I couldn't understand because it was not in my language.
Maybe it was Korean.
Yeah, mostly Korean, right? So that was one thing I was going to ask is, um, does it seem like more of this times when you live stream, you're getting more, uh, sort of more of a local audience, so to speak?
Oh yeah, yeah, for real. So there's a rule in Korea that if you post video on 8 p.m., it will go viral. It's like a superstition that every Korean YouTuber has, because like everyone goes to their work, and then when they're coming back, it's around, they're in the subway station at 8 p.m. So everyone watching YouTube channels. So
Okay, so 8 p.m. So tell me a little bit about this. Tell me about the so in the States, United States, we say like the regular sort of work pattern is like 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like that's the supposed to be the typical thing. Of course, I'm a musician, so that's never been
Right.
that's what
Never
I'm
at
working
9 a.m.
right. Mine is more like 7 a.m. to midnight.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right.
Work
That's,
hard.
you know how that is. But tell me what that is, what that, that general work day. So you're saying that folks get off of work at 8 p.m.?
Yeah, I think Korean people work too much in because they always, well, in some of the company they have this rule that you have to just get out of the company at 5 p.m. but mostly it's usual to um go home at 7 p.m. because I never been in the company so I don't really know, but as my friend said, even though you can go to your home at 6 p.m. They cannot get out because, sorry, my Siri. They cannot go home because of their boss or just looking at them. Oh, are you going home at 6 p.m.? Even I'm not going home at 6 p.m. That kind of culture in Korea is really weird. But so mostly like 8 p.m. there's still people going home because they live far away from where they work.
So that's interesting. Now, what time do Koreans usually go to work? When do they start work?
8.
So like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Oh yeah, maybe less than that, but
yeah. So I get it. It makes sense. So that it just gives some context for why 8 p.m. seems like it would be like a significant time to do a video.
right.
And this reminds me, you were saying this thing where you're supposed to be off at 5, but your boss is still there looking at you like there's
That's
still some work to do and you're not done. What it reminds me of is have you ever watched the series The Office?
Oh, but I know what it is. I didn't watch it.
Okay, that's a great it's a great series if you want to understand with a lot of humor, if you want to understand what the sort of typical workplace is like, American workplace, that's a good sort of, it's a good series to check out. But there was one episode.
Mm-hmm.
So the office had been sold to a new company called Sabre, and the boss, the CEO of Sabre, a woman named Jo, she came in to basically do some work on site, and it was also St. Patrick's Day or something, which was a day. There's a lot of going to the bar and getting see how can I put it, getting wasted,
yeah.
So getting drunk, right. So anyhow, so that was going on, but she's still in the office. It's 5 o'clock. She's still in there. 6 o'clock. She's still in there. 7 o'clock. It's like this. And none of them would leave because they were afraid, because this is the main boss and we don't want her to think that we're lazy.
So it's same as Korea.
Yeah.
I think it's just because Korean people has this kind of culture that you can't leave before the boss.
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's the same thing.
That's sad. I'm glad I'm original.
Right. Okay. So So how about your other social media? Are you working any? Um, I mean, are you the kind that has sort of different kinds of content that you do on different platforms,
Uh,
or are you just mainly just focusing on your YouTube?
I think I'm mainly focused on my YouTube channel. I think it will be too much if I'm doing other contents on different channel. I was thinking about that actually, but my um I decide to just focus on my channel because I think that's necessary because right
Well,
now
whatever you're doing is working. 'Cause, I mean, you have more than 100,000 subscribers, and that is in less than what in 2 years, however long you've had the channel. Not very long. That's pretty. Yeah, most
I'm
folks
for
don't
that.
get that. So something that you're doing, and whatever it is that you're, yeah, whatever it is that you're doing is working.
Thank
So
you.
I would double down on it. That's effective strategy, and it doesn't hurt that you're a great player.
Ah, thank you. That means a lot actually. I was like, oh, I'm just being a teacher. I'm not a player anymore. So I was kind of, oh, I have to do music again. I was thinking about that. Yeah, maybe I
So
should play more.
yeah, so you said you were doing cruise ships for a while.
Right.
How long
Yeah.
did you do that, and which cruise line were you doing?
I was in Royal Caribbean
Okay,
and I was it was not even a year. I was there for about 8 months, but the experience itself was so strong because I was stuck there for 1 month and a half. So
right,
it just captured in my memory. But
right.
it was a really nice experience because I was I was not a musician. I was like an entertainer in the was like a concept um, and it was called Stowaway Pianist. So the concept was I was a stowaway in the ship, and then I just moved around this piano, and then I was playing for the people, and they say, "Oh, don't tell captain that I'm here," and
Oh, I
oh, you
see.
found me. I'll give you this T-shirts, that kind of stuff. So it was really a great experience.
All right. Well, do you have anything? You have anything else that you want to plug, or
Um, I don't know. It was a really fun conversation.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I really loved it. It gave me inspiration.
So when's the next time you're going to do a like a live stream or something, like with
uh,
your maybe your trio or something?
right. I don't have a plan right now, but I'm thinking to do another live stream. Just by myself, just like talking to people and just playing
Yeah.
what they want me to play. I don't know. Maybe in 1 month I'll do the live stream, but I don't know when it's gonna be
Man,
live.
you got to do for my money. And what you're doing with your channel is working, so you don't have to listen to this. But for my money, um, once a week, every other week or something with your trio,
Oh,
um, I think that would be if people got used to seeing you consistently. I
mhm.
think that I think that I think your numbers would go up really quickly.
Oh, really?
Your number of live viewers, and then
Oh,
and of course it's a way that you can make some money too, right? Because people can super chat,
right,
right? They
right.
can support you
Mhm.
that way. You know who Emmett Cohen is,
Yeah, I watch his live lots of times.
right? So you think about this, and he's won a bunch of awards, and the awards are on the strength of a lot of the stuff that he's done during the pandemic, right? And he
Oh,
just
really?
is, yeah. So he's just, but he's consistent, right? He's very consistent,
Right.
um, and I think, yeah, I think if you did that, I think, yeah, That's just
Yeah.
my thought.
Okay, I'll write it down.
right. Yeah.
I was actually really thinking to do more live stream with my band, and then thinking to make an album as well. So yeah, after the book is released, I'll just do everything I want. Like I want to do more music than teaching or writing a book, because I have this hunger of music right now.
Yeah, and we'll see how things go, but I think maybe there could be some opportunity
Mhm.
for us to get you to Ohio State at some point, even if it was in like a virtual kind of capacity.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been fun talking, and like I said, thanks for agreeing to do this. And
Thank you for calling me. Pleasure.
you got it.
Thank you
And
so much.
all right, I'll see you later.
All right, bye bye.
All right, bye.